This program is sponsored by the
Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to Spotlight. I'm Edgewenka, and we have an interesting lineup for you this evening. Of course, we're going to have Sean Rose with the stories making news, and some interesting stories making news. A lot happening in the territory. Then we are going to have Sister Laura Lee Connor, Gender Affairs Coordinator, and we're going to be talking about whether we should lock up men who are not paying child support. You know, we had a comment made in the House of Assembly by Assemblywoman Alvra Maduro Keynes from the 6th District. And she was talking about, a young person that she met who didn't have a job and had child support and was fearful of being incarcerated. And she specifically limited her comment to persons who are unemployed, young men who are unemployed. We are going to try to deal with this evening men, period, whether you're employed or unemployed. Does it make sense to lock up someone who does not pay a man who does not pay child support? So that's coming up. And of course, we've been having African Descendant History Month series. We had Teacher Jenny in the beginning. We had Dr. Angel Smith, Dr. Patricia Turnbull. Tonight, Troy, Christopher, and I, we are going to wrap things up. We're going to talk about some of the things that our former guests talk about, some of the things that Teacher Jenny talked about, some of the values, the cultural values and norms and traditions that we had a few years back, maybe 50 or so years back, 60 years back. We're also going to talk about some of the values of those cultural behavior and traditions, and we're going to talk about some of the things that came out of those values and those customs and those traditions. Specifically, our ability to identify needs in the community and create businesses to fulfill those needs. I don't know if many of us know that Virgin Islanders come from a long tradition of entrepreneurship. We were always business people. However small the business was, we were business people. And people come from abroad and they say Virgin Islands don't like to do this kind of job, Virgin Islands don't like to do that kind of job, and we think that we are better than other people. But it's just a cultural training, a cultural behavior that we have been used to providing the things that we needed for ourselves and developing and growing our economy. We might not know we were growing our economy, but we know that we had some needs to fill, and we were going about the task. Our forefathers went about the task of fulfilling those needs and creating work and employment and services and goods for the community that the community needed. So we're going to talk some about that. So it's going to be a very interesting program tonight. We're going to talk to Sean Rose and see what he has, what stories are making the news this week. Sean?
Good evening, viewers. Thank you, Edgewenka. Well, we're going to look at the National Health Insurance this time around, and in particular, discussions are rife. In fact, many people are wondering what impact this NHI will have on small businesses, and already some people are suggesting that some businesses would close their doors, there would be loss of employment, and in fact some have gone as far as saying it will cripple small businesses, generally speaking. To give you some background information though, the NHI will be operated by the Social Security Board and will be funded through a combination of government budgetary allocations, employer and beneficiary contributions, co-payments, surcharges and interest earned on NHI fund reserves. Apparently some business owners are already struggling to contribute to the Social Security Board, and they fear that this new health insurance system would put a burden on their finances. In fact, one contributor, the first in a series of government on-the-road community meetings held in Carrot Bay last evening, suggested that some business owners are already before the court in relation to Social Security payments, and they, well, in particular the gentleman who raised the question was asking what will happen when this national health insurance is added to that scenario. Edrinka, I'm sure you may be familiar with the subject matter yourself. I'm not so sure what you think about the likely impact on small businesses.
Well, you know, just like the payroll tax, remember when the payroll tax was coming out, businesses were complaining as well. But it seems to me with the national health insurance, is the financing for it seems to be spread out over a wider area, you know, where you're collecting funds from various places. So it seems that the businesses might have to pay a smaller portion, and I think perhaps we need to wait and see and give that a chance. The question is, Sean, is the benefits of national health insurance going to merit the cost of national health insurance?
And as you said a while ago, that's left to be seen too. But one thing is certain, every legal resident in the territory is entitled to benefit from this national health insurance. And there is also a caveat, if you like, for people who are unemployed. So it basically allows everyone here in the territory to have access to health insurance, irrespective of their financial status. And I think that should be a good thing.
Has anyone been concerned in the community about the cost bankrupting our treasury? Right now we have a situation where nearly half of our people have one chronic disease or the other. So I think the exact figure from the survey of the Ministry of Health and Social Development is 47% of Virgin Islanders have one chronic disease or the other. And of course, the cost of health care in the Health Services Authority is already too low. I mean, you have things like $25 a bed. Some treatments are not even being paid for. And when all this come into play, is the cost going to go up? And by the cost going up and us having to pay those exorbitant fees to pharmaceutical companies and for health care, how is that going to impact our treasury? And you know, I'm wondering, is that a concern for anybody in the population? I
mean, it should be. In fact, this is all happening at a time when the BVI HSA, the BVI Health Services Authority, is owed some $41 million by residents or people who have at some point lived here and have access to services, and now that burden is resting on the shoulders of the BVI HSA. In fact, in relation to the NHI, this discussion has been going on for some time, since 1986, and it has taken some 27 years thereabout to actually get to the stage where there is a program to be implemented. A very lengthy period, one would argue, before actually deciding what to do in relation to providing national health insurance.
But what's interesting to me is that we have been paying for health care for at least 82% of the population for many years now. If you look at the Health Services Authority, the person's exempt from paying for health care in the Health Services Authority constitutes approximately 82% of the population when you take into account the civil servants that's exempt, the children that's exempt, and the elderly that is exempt. And so we have been paying, but that money has been coming out of the treasury. I think what health insurance seeks to do is to spread the cost, you know, in the private sector, right, as well as out of the treasury. So I think those are decisions that we can make as to whether we want to pay more out of our pocket or we want to continue to pay everything out of the treasury.
I mean, the critics argue that the system is in and of itself a socialist approach. However, Honorable Skelton, in response to one such suggestion last evening, pointed out that socialism is present in every economic system across the globe, basically. And he encouraged residents to look at the plan from the standpoint of doing the greater good to benefit all in the territory. He also called on residents to bear in mind that you can access services here in the territory and outside the territory under the National Health Insurance Plan.
Well, you know, we have many socialist activities going on in the country. Free education up to the tertiary level is a socialist policy. Social Security is a socialist policy. The exempt status for most healthcare needs is so is a socialist policy. So we have, I mean, every economy in the world is a mixed economy. There's no pure capitalist economy.
I mean, there's often a negative connotation to socialism. I mean, but we can argue that it is based on the premise that capitalism it creates inequality, and therefore socialism in and of itself should allow for a more balanced distribution of resources. So it's really not a negative approach in terms of the socialist aspect.
Well, the debate is good, and it'll continue to rage until we come to a final conclusion, and I suspect that national health insurance is here to stay. One of the things that the government has just done is engage a company from the UK to develop a national strategic plan to through social marketing to change behavior so that we can prevent ourselves from contracting these non-communicable chronic diseases, in other words, maintain our wellness. So hopefully that would serve to minimize the cost and the burden of healthcare to the people of the territory, because if we take responsibility for maintaining our health and our wellness, certainly we wouldn't have to pay those exorbitant fees for pharmaceuticals and other equipment to provide the healthcare. Sean,
there you go. In fact, just to wrap up, again at that meeting, one person pointed out that cancer, the rate of cancer here in the BVI is relatively high, and there are concerns about addressing that as well. So I would encourage persons though to go out to the NHI meetings. In fact, there is one this evening at the Noel Lloyd Park, and tomorrow, Wednesday, there'll be one at the Stickett in East End, and on Thursday there'll be another meeting at the basketball court in Huntom's Gut, starting at 7 p.m. Of course, you can stay tuned to JTV News for more information, and also jtvlive.net.
One last thing before you go. I understand that the National Health Insurance Scheme is not going to be covering alternative treatment modalities, and that saddens me, because those are some of the treatments that's least expensive, most effective, least side effects, and could really help us to maintain our wellness and lower the costs. And I'm surprised and saddened by the fact that, well, saddened that we may not be covering alternative treatment modalities, if that is in fact the case. And I certainly would like to ask that question when I meet with the people who are selling the National Health Insurance Scheme. Thanks a lot, Sean. Good.
You're welcome.
Good story. We're going to take a break for word from our sponsors. We're going to come back with Laura Lee Connor, the coordinator of the Gender Affairs, and we're going to tell her that it's a good idea to lock up men who don't pay their child support, and I'm sure she's going to disagree with me, but we're going to see who's going to win the battle here tonight. Keep it locked right at the Spotlight. We'll be right back.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.
Calling all CCT Internet customers. Did you know if you have CCT Internet service, including internet on your phone, you can connect to CCT's 4G Wi-Fi service free of charge? That means you can enjoy unlimited high-speed CCT Wi-Fi on any Wi-Fi device. Browse the web, check your mail, stay connected to any of CCT BVI's hotspots for free. Call CCT today and request your exclusive CCT Wi-Fi username and password, and join the CCT Wi-Fi network. CCT, the home of unlimited.
It's fast, it's reliable, it's Bolo's full-color high-tech printery. For on-time production of your funeral booklets, graphic designs, CD covers, and complete wedding packages. Bolo's high-tech printery. Need your banners, brochures, posters, flyers, business cards, and stationery in a hurry? It's Bolo's high-tech printery. Whatever your printing or paper supply needs, no job is too big or too small. At Bolo's full-color high-tech printery, we don't just promise great quality, we put it on paper. Visit Bolo's full-color high-tech printery in Vanderpool's Plaza or call us at 494-3641.
Choosing a college education is one of the most important decisions that you will ever make. A college degree or certification opens doors to greater opportunities that will improve the quality of life for you and your family. the greater the investment made in education, the greater the returns. I am Charlita Millington, Regulator of Investments and Securities Business, and a proud graduate of the H. Lavity Stout Community College. A leader in higher education which aids in the improvement of life, a vibrant economy, and nation building. Any educational institution is best judged by its graduates, and the H. Lavity Stout Community College is committed to the development of the human resources of these Virgin Islands and the region. Now, because of HLSCC, I am making a difference.
Remember, at HLSCC, your tomorrow begins today.
Let's get this party started right now. Let's get this party rolling.
Yo, pick up your trash.
Let's get this party started right now. Let's get this party rolling right now.
There are designated dump sites in the territory. Would you throw the trash in the middle of your home? It is illegal to leave trash on top of your moving vehicle. The bag of garbage must be placed in the trunk. It is never to be left on the top. It only takes a few minutes to toss your garbage in the bin. When you don't take the time, litter and trash become an issue to everyone. Don't be careless. Make sure you toss it responsibly. The BVI is our home, so we ask each and every one of you to do your part and help us keep the BVI clean.
Please, throw your garbage in the waste bins. The BVI is our home and our future.
Drive and truck your bulky trash to the designated dump sites located at Sandville, Anegada, Pond Bay, Jos Van Dyke, North Sound, Virgin Gorda, and Hawkwood Pond, Tortola. Dare to care? Your BVI needs you.
Your car will love Virgin Island Motors' newly expanded, large, and more spacious, well-stocked automotive supply store. All your automotive parts and supplies under one roof. Get your cleaners, degreasers, refrigerants, solvents, thinners, tints, floor mats, wiper blades, seat covers, and much, much more. Everything you need to keep your car running smooth and looking new. Virgin Island Motors remain the home of the world-famous quality AC Delco parts. And when you and your loved ones are riding, make sure you're riding on Goodyear and Cooper tires. The sturdiest Duracell AGM marine batteries are now in stock at Virgin Island Motors. Virgin Island Motors, everything you need for a smooth ride.
See any justification in locking up a young unemployed young male for non-payment of child support. I am by no means, Madam Speaker, condoning this action by any young man, but there has to be something else that the system can do in order to remedy this situation. Recently, a young man met me and he said, Ms. Maduro, I've been trying for months now to find a job. He said, I have my child support to pay. And he said, one thing that has gone on his mind, he would have to steal in order to pay his child support because he doesn't want to go to jail. Madam Speaker, I don't have the answer to this plaguing situation that has been going on in our community for quite some time. But I know putting a young man in jail who is unemployed is not the answer. You know, I don't have the answer. What putting a young man in jail does is create a criminal record. And this makes it even harder when he comes out of jail to find a job. But as a government, I am hoping and praying that we would soon come up with some kind of solutions to this problem that has been plaguing us for such a long time.
Well, my sister Larry, it's good to see you. Your son, Assemblywoman Keynes. And you know, it sounds logical and reasonable, but well, let me find out. What's your view?
I don't think that men or persons who don't pay their support, because I can't be focusing on just the men, because there might be some women out there who are not paying child support, and you know, we're striving for a gender just society, and in so doing I have to keep my mind open in terms of the sexes, the gender.
I'm sure that men are, that's a refreshing note for the men to be hearing.
It might be refreshing, but at the end of the day, statistically speaking, the majority of cases before the court for child support are women. And while I don't agree.
You mean more men are being charged with lack of child support?
Yes,
okay.
That's what I mean.
That's what you mean. Okay.
Yes,
that's
so it's women taking the men to court
for
child support, and that's an overwhelming fact before the courts. While I don't agree with putting the men in jail, we have to remember that legally that is what's there. So our legislators then need to look at finding different ways and means of addressing this issue. So I think the right person is bringing it to the table, a legislature. And in so doing, then we can now address it, get the necessary parties involved. But it's well within the confines of the court to make those orders, because that's what's there.
So legislation needs to be changed.
Definitely.
Legislation needs to be changed. But I mean, is it really a bad law? Can one say, you know, men need to think before they act? You know, they need to think with the right head, so to speak. you know, and being locked up is a deterrent to men just going out and willy-nilly having children without thought for how they're going to take care of them, and without thought for how they're going to take care of their families. Isn't it a proper deterrent?
It's a deterrent, but at the end of the day, parenting is a partnership, and both parents have to be considered as the protector, the provider of these children. And when you lock up one, that means one has to play the role of both. So it might be a deterrent, but at the end of the day, it's the children who are going to suffer. And that's something that, you know, we need to look at when we're looking at new policies, new legislation. We have a national gender policy that specifically speaks to this, but it covers it under legislation. It's actually the third policy. And there are recommendations made for dealing with the case of child support and maintenance. And I also know that social development is working on a document for child support to put before cabinet. So,
but these policies are not in effect yet.
They're not in effect, but the policy is before cabinet. So we are waiting. There are 32 policies. Legislation has 5, and that's the third one. That's the importance of that one.
What can you tell us about that policy that speaks specifically to child support?
Well, the policy, the philosophy behind it is the view of both men and women, as I previously mentioned, as partners in parenting, and to promote healthy family life. So that's both parents being equally involved in their children's lives. Now, while we're doing these revisions, or while you're even looking at the policy, it tries to take a gender balance approach. And when I say gender balance approach, I'm looking specifically in terms of visitation, because in some cases, males can be ordered to pay child support, but there's nothing legally stating, well, he has visitation rights. And
he's entitled to see his children.
Exactly. So then what happens is you're paying this money, but you don't have any rights for visitations or...
And that has been a major concern.
That has been a major concern. So when I say gender balance, I mean both parents need to be taken into consideration when we're looking at new legislation. And there are suggestions made within the policy, such as suspension of driver's license, revoking passports, community service supervised. So there's suggestions on how to deal with it. I know in St. Thomas, in the USVI, that's what they do. They work mostly with the license and trying to find ways and means of getting the persons to pay. Again, I don't want to say males to pay because there are women also.
But isn't garnishing of salaries a viable alternative? I don't hear people speaking about that.
That is also part of it. Actually, it looks specifically at enacting attachments of earnings, which will then allow, well, the necessary legislation will be there to support garnishing of salaries. So that is also something that's clearly stated in the policy. But again, we need to look at legislation. That's what needs to change here. The legislation needs to be looked at.
So when we are coming up with these policies and legislation, we should be looking at not to punish the parents, but the interests of the child.
You should be looking at the interests of the child, but the parent who is not taking their role seriously, there should be some form of reprimand. There should be some form of punishment or punitive treatment in place. However, at the end of the day, both parents need to be treated equally from a legal perspective.
One of the things that Assemblywoman Keynes said is that the young man was afraid of being incarcerated, right? Isn't that fair, necessary to motivate the person, the culprit, to pay? Even if you had all the legislation in place, wouldn't there be some of those persons who would say, well, all right, I don't care if they take my driver's license, you know, whatever, I'm not paying. And or they might feel, well, for some reason, and particularly the reason where they don't have the access to the children that they think they should have, even if the court decide what access they should have. You know how men are, particularly, you know, that's my child and I want to see them when I want to see them, and I don't care what the courts say, and you have a human behavior. We are going to behave in a certain way. So isn't that action, that incarceration component of the legislation effective in mitigating some of those particular circumstances?
Maybe not, because you can be exposing that young man who has never been to jail to another lifestyle, 1. 2, prison may not be for everybody. He can come back out being quite resentful. There should be ways of dealing with persons who don't want to pay child support or deliberately don't pay child support. But in cases where you can clearly see there's an issue, you're not working, how can you come up with funds for child support? You're trying to get a job. I mean, putting you in jail then does what?
Well, you certainly can't pay if you're in jail.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then, you know, we, as men in the society particularly, we have this attitude that, and we were talking about this in terms of post-traumatic slave syndrome, where the African descendant male coming out of the plantation era, where his ancestral male were a breeding tool to provide slaves for the plantation, was encouraged, and his manhood was tied up in as many women as he could breed and as many children as he can have. And that has been passed on multi-generationally to this point. And you see that in a lot of us as African descendant male, just feeling like we could just have as many women as we want. The thing, you know, it's bragging rights. It's a notch in your belt. Your manhood is tied up in having as many women as you can at the same time and getting as many children as you can at the same time without any thought for how you're going to take care of these women and take care of these children. And isn't incarceration a motivation or demotivation, if you will, to desist from that type of behavior.
While I'm hearing what you're saying, I strongly disagree with that syndrome that you're referring to. Because how long ago have we been away from slavery? We're in modern times, and families are quite crucial to the overall development of any country, because you can't function without your most important resources, which is your people, and your people function in units as families. And I strongly disagree with that. I think we need to move away from this mentality where it's cool to have kids here, there, and everywhere. Those children have to grow up, and they need both parents in their lives, mother, father, in their lives, to play prominent parts in their lives. Not one in jail because they're not supporting them. I mean, think on the rejection that child goes through. Think on the pain they go through not being able to see their father or mother when they need to see them. So I think we need to move away from that. It's in our culture, it's definitely ingrained in our culture, but we need to inculcate a fresh culture of healthy families.
Well, but that's exactly the point, and we might disagree about the way it has been passed down, and
right,
and the length and the period of time that slavery has been abolished. But you know, some leading scholars have done years and years, some done 12, 15 years of research, can draw all kind of examples of this multi-generational transfer of plantation life that continue to persist in our mentality today. And we don't seem to be able to get rid of it, because just like what you just did, dismiss it out of hand, all of us seem to want to do that. No one, and I don't want to get sidetracked into this, because this does tie into Black History, African Descendant History Month, you know, and it's interesting that we are going in this direction. But and one of my questions is here, the root cause of the problem, and certainly you can look at this historical event as one of the root causes of that problem. And if we have to solve that problem, don't we have to deal with some of these root causes?
I agree that we have to deal with the root causes, and you're suggesting that this syndrome, this
post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome.
And you know, in psychology, there's a post-trauma syndrome.
Post-traumatic syndrome. So
right.
this is post-traumatic slave syndrome.
So this is a trauma of slavery that has been passed down multi-generationally. It's the same psychological concept and idea.
It might be the same concept, but like you said earlier, we have to deal with the root of the problem.
Yes.
So we need to find out what the root of the problem is, and you're suggesting that it's this post-traumatic slave syndrome.
At least one of the roots of the problem.
One of the roots, but there's several. There has to be several.
There might be a multiplicity of roots.
There are several, yes, because our culture looks at manhood as going out there and having as many children as you can and having as many women as you can. But there are men who choose to live differently because they can see the harm in living that way. So if those men can make a choice, then these other men who are running out there having children here, there, and everywhere can also make a conscious choice to end it.
Yes, and we got to take a break, and we could start thinking about what can we do then as a society to strengthen our families, strengthen our men and women, so that we can build stronger families. And can we go back to some of our traditional values of the past to bring those forward to help to stabilize our family unit? We're going to take a break for a word from our sponsors. We're going to come right back with Sister Laura Lee Connor. She is the Gender Affairs Coordinator. We're having a discussion about the statement that Honorable Alvera Keynes, Assemblywoman from the 2nd District, made in the House of Assembly concerning locking men up for not paying child support. Keep it locked right in the spotlight. We'll be right back. And of course, coming up, we're also going to have Troy Christopher. We're going to be talking about some of these same issues and the whole value system that we had in the past, that we did not see the value of that value system. And here we are now with these continual social challenges. Keep it locked right here to Spotlight. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Spotlight is brought to you by Bolo's High-Tech Printery, Virgin Island Motors, and Clarence Thomas Limited.
Did you know there's a drive-through lumberyard in the BVI? That's right, the only drive-through lumberyard in the territory. What does that mean? Well, for one thing, your lumber and plywood stay nice, dry, and straight. No more curves. But not only that, there are experts on hand to help you with any and everything lumber. And there's also a pro store where you can get everything else to complement your purchases. Blocks, cement, molding, steel, windows, doors, galvalume, fencing, fasteners, tools, and that's just to name a few. Where is this place, you ask? Well, that's at CTL Lumberyard and Pro Store, of course. Visit us in Port Russell at the Old Sims location and see for yourself. Good lumber at the best prices. Now, you can't beat that. Telephone us at 284-494-2359 and ask for our lumberyard. CTL Lumberyard and Pro Store, the best products at the lowest prices, period.
Are you a U.S. citizen or a resident alien living in the BVI? Do you meet the requirements to file a U.S. income tax return with the Internal Revenue Service along with any applicable foreign bank, financial accounts, and statements of specified foreign financial assets? If you answered yes to the previous questions, you need M.A. Clark, CPA, LLC, to assist you in complying with filing your requirements as well as small business account services. Call us today for a free consultation. 284-494-0401 or contact us on the web. We look forward to working with you.
Serving the community for over 25 years, Tortola Concrete Limited is the leading producer of concrete products in the BVI. With grades of 3,000 to 5,000 PSI, Tortola Concrete ready mix quality unmatched in the industry, and we can mix to your specifications. Our aggregates are clean through our unique washing process for our smooth, clean mix, and our special chilling process makes our concrete crack resistant. Tortola Concrete Limited is the concrete company for all your quality concrete products. Gravel, road base, face stone, boulders, armor rock, coarse sand, terrace, and the cleanest, strongest, crack-resistant, ready-mix concrete. Tortola Concrete batch plan serve you Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. until the last load. Our knowledgeable, effective staff gives you free estimate and delivers on time to any location. Contact Tortola Concrete at 494-3259, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Conveniently located in Parkwood Pond near the BVI electricity plant. At Tortola Concrete Limited, the strength is in the mix.
Life is like a mountain you must climb. Life is like a treasure you must find. A baby learning how to talk. With just one step begins to walk. One step at a time will lead you to paradise. Your dreams are there to find. One step to paradise.
Welcome back to Spotlight. As you come here with Laura Lee Connor, Gender Affairs Coordinator. We're talking about whether we should lock up men for not paying child support. So, I think we both agree, even though there is some merit to locking them up, but we both agree that it's not the optimum solution.
No, it's not.
What needs to happen in your view, from your perspective?
From my perspective, which we're already working on, we have to have new legislation that addresses this issue. That's the first thing. The second thing is stakeholders need to come together and work on ways and means.
And by stakeholders, you mean who?
By stakeholders, I'm talking about social development, legal fraternity.
Churches?
The churches are a must. community groups, etc., need to come together and look at ways and means of promoting healthy families. And in promoting healthy families, we would get men and women to see the importance of their role in their children's lives and their community at large. And I think that's a starting point. After legislation, we need that support.
And a mindset change.
That's why I'm saying we need to get the stakeholders involved, those people who make up those grassroots persons in the community.
And I've been talking about social marketing for years now. I mean, and I'm happy to see. You know, that's like as far back I think is maybe 12 years ago, because all the social ills that we have has a root cause, and it's human behavior. It's a spiritual, not a religious, a spiritual malady, I think, that us human beings have developed over the years from, you know, the effects of various cultures. But I'm happy to see that the government is bringing in a person or a company to engage in social marketing for chronic disease, for the prevention of chronic disease. And that same approach can be taken as well for building stronger families.
Yes.
Yes. And I have to say right now that we're going to have that person on a special edition of Spotlight tomorrow night. So make sure you tune in, because it's going to be quite an interesting discussion about changing the behavior of the people of the territory to prevent men from just going around getting children without irresponsibly. You know, it's a behavior that needs to change. Or eating so much fatty foods and having no exercise is a behavior that we need to change. So, and all of these things could be done by bringing the attention, you know, these aspects of ourselves that need to change, so we could become better human beings.
Yes, I really believe that social marketing is the way to go for all the issues that we're facing. If we're going to tackle chronic disease first, then so be it. But at the end of the day, we have to accept the fact that we need changes and work towards making those changes.
If persons want to get in touch with you and they have some challenges, they want to work out from a gender perspective, how can they do that?
They can contact me at the Office of Gender Affairs. We're open from 8:30 to 4:30 daily, Monday to Friday. And my numbers are 468-0017. And you can also go through Government Switchboard 3701 and ask for the Office of Gender Affairs.
And where are you located?
Upstairs B&F at the Mill Mall.
Okay. Lara Lee Connor, thanks for taking the time out of your long day. And I know, you know, you're doing this community a special service.
Yes.
I need to say, it's a special favor you're doing to the community, to come on Spotlight at 8 o'clock in the night after working from 8 o'clock in the morning. Right?
Yes,
so we appreciate you. I think I need to say that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure being here, and talking with you always, you know, helps me to know where I need to be headed.
This is true?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, and the pleasure is all mine to have you. We're coming back after this break with Troy Christopher. We're going to talk about our African Descendant Month, African Descendant History Month, and we're going to be discussing some of the similar issues that we discussed with Lara Lee, and how our values and our culture stabilized the family when we were young. When I was young, I had both parents. I had my mother that was there in the house, nurturing me continually, taught me how to read and write when I was 3 years old. I couldn't have had that today, I'm sure. You know. And so, and my father was able to take care of this family, and there was a culture of male responsibility, female nurturing, that stabilized the families in those days. So we're gonna come back. Troy and I are gonna be talking about some of those issues, entrepreneurship, whole bunch of stuff. Keep it locked right here. Spotlight. Don't go. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.
At CCT, unlimited means unlimited. We've got the best selection for unlimited voice and internet plans available. Choose unlimited voice for only $39 per month. We'll give you a choice of unlimited usage with or without contract. Just choose one of our no contract plans. Need unlimited internet? You got it. We'll give you unlimited internet on your phone or unlimited broadband at home without no overage charges. No high bills, no need to pay for fixed line you never use. Choose CCT and join the home of unlimited today. CCT, where unlimited means unlimited.
Your car will love Virgin Island Motors' newly expanded, large, and more spacious, well-stocked automotive supply store. All your automotive parts and supplies under one roof. Get your cleaners, degreasers, refrigerants, solvents, thinners, tints, floor mats, wiper blades, seat covers, and much, much more. Everything you need to keep your car running smooth and looking new. Virgin Island Motors remain the home of the world-famous quality AC Delco parts. And when you and your loved ones are riding, make sure you're riding on Goodyear and Cooper tires. The sturdiest Duracell AGM Marine batteries are now in stock at Virgin Island Motors. Virgin Island Motors, everything you need for a smooth ride.
What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your life? Hanging out on the corner where there is no future. What are you doing with your life? Tell me, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your life? That's what you should do with your life.
It's fast, it's reliable, it's Bolo's full-color high-tech printery. For on-time production of your funeral booklets, graphic designs, CD covers, and complete wedding packages. Bolo's high-tech printery. Need your banners, brochures, posters, flyers, business cards, and stationery in a hurry? It's Bolo's high-tech printery. Whatever your printing or paper supply needs, no job is too big or too small. At Bolo's full-color high-tech printery, we don't just promise great quality, we put it on paper. Visit Bolo's full-color high-tech printery in Vanderpool's Plaza or call us at 494-3641.
Spotlight is brought to you by Bolo's High-Tech Printery, Virgin Island Motors, and Clarence Thomas Limited.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Ed Juenka and I'm here with Troy Christopher. And we are going to wrap up our African Descendant History Month. We had a great time. We had a wonderful guest. Troy, it's good to see you.
Good evening. Good evening, Garmel. Good evening, viewers. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, for those of you who are not familiar with Troy, of course, most of you may know, is the managing director of JTV. But Troy is also a thinker. You know, he's also a thinker, one of our, I think, great young minds here in the Virgin Islands, an analytical thinker, and he always has a perspective on what's going on in the community and the pulse of the community, and yeah, and from a historic perspective as well. So it's always interesting to have Troy on to talk to. Troy, we had a good time with African Descendant History Month, and I have to say African Descendant History Month because I don't want to get caught up in no color. You know, because I'm not black, I got white in me. So.
okay, so that's, I was trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah, that's what it is, you know, okay. It's like, you know, we can't, black people are not black anymore, it's just amazing, you know, so we're African descendant, you can't get away from that, you know, so I would say African Descendant History Month, that's what that's about. But we had a good time speaking with Teacher Jenny and Dr. Angel Smith and Dr. Pat Turnbull about the values of and traditions of people in days gone by, and not too long ago. I mean, because, you know, 60, 65, 70 years ago, we had this vibrant culture where we did things, for example, and I made a list. We looked out for each other. Our young women saved themselves to marry us. They didn't engage too much in sex before marriage. We had a certain level of respect for them. They had a certain level of respect for themselves. We had, as men, had a certain level of respect for ourselves. We supported each other. Education was the big thing in the community. The older men trained the younger men. It wasn't a situation where you had some information and you think you're going to live forever, so you gather that information with your life and don't pass it on to somebody in the community, even if your children didn't want to do it, or even if your children wanted to do it, you still pass it on to another child in the community. I mean, looking back at it now, it was just a phenomenal culture that we had.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you to all the viewers who watch JTV. We've done quite a bit of documentaries and the shows that you've done, Cromwell, during this Black History Month. You're calling it African Descendants Month.
The African Descendants History Month, yes.
Either one is fine with me. And so I've looked at a lot of the shows you've had, and we've had compliments on bringing out the information, and the public themselves have given us compliments on the types of documentaries we air. And some people want to know where you guys find those documentaries, that kind of thing. And we work hard to find good information and have it documented, and that's one of the things that we've tried to do over the years. But to get deeper into the discussion that you were having over the last couple of weeks, I've been looking for a word or phrase when you talk about our ancestors and times gone by, to describe exactly what it was taking place. What was so different about the community? What it is that we seem to miss, or what it is that we think that we could use. And it is only a couple minutes ago I came up with this phrase. It's very simple: building a responsible community. It seemed like the generations before us had a goal to build a responsible community. And in analyzing a lot of the things that we look at as our culture and the things that we hold there, I'm not sure that we have that same focus, or at least that commitment to that goal. And I think that we're paying, and we're going to continue to pay a tough price for not trying to build a responsible community.
Well, and I know that one of your concerns is, how did we get to that point, and how did we lose that feeling as young, as men and women who came from parents and ancestry with that kind of commitment?
I think that especially with the last discussion you had on the last segment about employment and people not taking responsibility, those are really complicated issues. But I think that we as a community, the younger generation, our parents set out on a journey that said to us that we had it hard, and we don't want you to have it as hard as we've had it. So we're going to try to make the next generation have it easier. And it's a combination of that and integration with other ways of doing things, other cultures that we embrace, that we took it for granted that they had more experience than us. We took it for granted that they knew more than us.
The people of other cultures.
The people of other cultures, specifically the North American culture. We took it for granted that they had to know more than us. But
they projected it in such a way.
I understand.
They made us feel inferior.
But we have, fast coming to the conclusion that maybe they didn't know better than us. Maybe they didn't know as much as we thought they knew. Maybe because we did not know our origins, we did not know the amount of time that our ancestors had already lived on the face of the earth, all the different challenges that they've already been through. We took it for granted that some of these fundamental things, whether we say good morning or not, we discarded that as, okay, well, maybe yes or no. We're not sure why it makes such a difference for the village to raise a child, for everybody to be responsible, for us to be committed to these things. I think we took
us providing for ourselves,
we took it for granted. We took it for granted.
Could it have been that we didn't know the value of our culture? That somewhere along the lines we retain, it seems to me that somewhere along the line we retain these cultural traditions and values, but we didn't understand the value of them. Our ancestors didn't understand the value of them, perhaps as a result of a cutting off from our mother country and our other societies. That support that we had for those values was destroyed in the Middle Passage of the plantation during the plantation era. So those values were constantly being eroded systematically and deliberately by those persons who were in control of the transatlantic slave trade.
I think so.
I mean, I'm looking for an answer.
See exactly what it was.
Yeah, and of course the television and the mass media from North America that bombarded us with their culture. When you mix that lack of understanding with that bombardment,
if you remember carefully though, during this journey, I think it's two things. I think that they wanted a better life for their children, but I think that shortly after this, the observation was made even from the older people that you are losing some values. They themselves try to explain to the younger generation that, listen, these values that we've taught you about God, these values that we've taught you about loving each other, these values that we've taught you about good work ethic, you should hold on to these values. And it was, to me, a mixed bag. I'm not sure that any of us knew where the journey would lead. So a lot of the older people, had said, if you don't take care of the planet, you're going to destroy it. If you wasteful,
waste not want not.
All of those phrases,
those sayings,
yes,
those expressions.
Yes. And I'm old enough to remember so much of them. That, but sometimes we took it for granted that, again, following in the steps of the North American culture, that we couldn't affect the population of the fish in the sea. We didn't figure that we could affect, all the different problems that we're having now with the planet. We didn't believe that we could cut down all the trees on the earth until, we have significant problems. But a lot of these things were told to us by all your generations. And we followed footstep into that culture and didn't decide that we're going to hold fast. And those of us who decided that they would try to help us hold fast, we weren't able to put any systematic things,
any institutions
in place to keep us grounded. So we're on this journey now. We're realizing that we're having some of the identical problems that we've seen in North America. We're following the system so hard. They're having challenges. They don't have the answers. And what is interesting now is that it's taken a turn where they are now looking to some of the older civilization to solve the problems that we're having. So all these issues that you've talked about socialism and all that kind of stuff, these things are really going out of the window. I'm not sure that we even need to use those words anymore. The United States with their healthcare program is one of the last big countries to realize that you have to provide health care for your people. Mm-hmm. So these are things that we're going to have to face, and I think that we're going to have to free our minds a little bit and let some of that entrepreneurial, independent thinking, not afraid of the environment, not afraid of your culture, not afraid to learn, spirit come back into us as Virgin Islanders. And one of the things that I noticed, I grew up with my grandparents for quite a bit of my years while my mother was away at university, and a lot of my observations in going back to those formative years for me now was the way that they would approach things. They didn't mind building everything from scratch. Mm-hmm. They didn't mind building the fence the way that they wanted it. They didn't mind making the gate locked the way they wanted it. You have to protect the animals, so you build something that will protect the animals. It wasn't an attitude of I don't know, or I can't possibly know, or I can't figure it out, or this information is too hard for me to figure out. They approached it as though there is a solution here, and we're going to find a solution here, and let's move on with life. You're gonna do it. Let's find a way that works, and let's go with what we have. If somebody comes up with something better, then we use what's better. If not, we have to figure out a way. And I don't think that I see a lot of that type of aggressive thinking as pervasive as it used to be in the days gone by.
So do we need to strengthen, for example, our institutions like our Ministry of Health and Social Development, Ministry of Education and Culture, for example, particularly our cultural department, to look at going back to get some of these values and traditions and inculcating them into our teachings and our education process, so that we could then begin to, just like how other cultures, just like how North America and Europe are going back into ancient civilizations to get those values to bring forward now to address their social issues. Is that something that we need to do? Because our culture is not that far removed.
I know, but one of the things that I think that we might need to get away from is the dividing of what is our culture, what is our tourism, what is our economic system. Mm-hmm. I think that we have to have a more holistic approach. I understand that that is the way that our governmental structure is divided. But I think that we must look at what works. We must look at what we need. We must look at what potential is there, and whether it fits in a context of culture or economy or tourism or whatever. Just move into doing that. And let me give you an example of if we have boat building as one of our things that we did in our history, one of the our fundamental key things that we know that we were known for. And we decided, for instance, to have some of those bigger boats, and we had tours that ran across the harbor or across a specific area that gave the experience of, these are hand-built boats that we would commission and we would build them again. Mm-hmm. Would you call that tourism? Would you call it culture? If you made money from it, would you call it your economic revenue owner? To me, it encompasses all of those things.
So it's all culture.
It's all
what it is.
Yes, it's all us. Yes, it's all what we were capable of. Okay. And if
you don't need to compartmentalize.
I don't think that we need to separate it. Yeah. I think it should be embedded within. We should see it throughout the Virgin Islands. This is the Virgin Islands. We know that we're surrounded by water. We know boat building was a fundamental part of what we did. Why? Because again, we are surrounded by water. That can work in our tourism product. It could work in our cultural product. It could work in our economic model. These things, to me, shouldn't just be restricted over here to, well, this is your culture, but there is no place for it within tourism, or there's no place for it within a modern economy. I think that that's some of the errors that I think that we've been making.
But isn't this what we did though? I mean, in the times that we're talking about, the times past that we're talking about, where our forefathers recognized that we needed to eat, and so we needed fish, for example. So they say, you know, we need to make something to catch fish on a larger scale. The line fishing is good, but it ain't gonna catch the amount of fish what we need to survive, right? So they decided, you know, let's look and see what happens. We're gonna cut down some sticks, and we're gonna get some palm leaves. We're gonna plait the palm leaves together, make a mesh, make a contraption, and so that the fish could go in, put some bait in it so the fish could go in and they can't get back out. And we're gonna put them in strategic places around the island and tie a buoy to them and go and see what we could catch on a daily basis. Recognizing that, then we know that we need to have a boat. So we went out and we get some trees. We take the trees with the fork in it, and to make the upright, to put the planks around. So to support what you're saying, all of these things, our ancestors never labeled them. It wasn't a big deal to say, well, oh, we need to get a boat, and it was, you look into the community, you look into your life, you look into your social structure, and you saw the needs, and you look at what the need, and you develop the solution to those problems.
A solution to the problems within your community.
Yeah.
And I think that the example that you use in terms of creating a fish pot is a good one. But even if we go to something that, you know, we have a tendency to shudder away from our culture or past way of life, like a tree, rock, fire, or a coal pot. We look at those things that's so ancient or so old, or the brick oven. I made a list of them here, like the brick oven. You know what's interesting, in having dinner at Charlie's by the Morans, they have a very nice brick oven. Well, it's on the outside is steel, the inside is layered with brick, and this is what they bake the pizzas in. That everybody likes this specific.
It gives a special flavor.
It gives us, the brick gives us specific flavor, and that's embedded in what we are calling a modern restaurant.
Yes.
So why are we running away from these things that we know? That the coal pot gives a flavor that is unprecedented,
and you can't duplicate the modern stove.
That the brick oven that we used to build gives a flavor that is unprecedented. That all of these traditional things that we use, these methods that we use, why do we look down on them to the point that we don't figure that we could use them to our benefit within our cultural or economical or tourism product? That's the part to me that it's
boggling.
Yes, it's mind-boggling, because it seems like we're stuck just, up one, a different...
In this so-called mechanical modern world.
Yes.
Yeah. We got to take a break for a word from our sponsors, and we're going to come back. Perhaps we should open up the phone and see if anybody wants to participate in the discussion when we come back. But keep it locked right here at the Spotlight. I'll be right back after these words from the sponsors.
Spotlight is brought to you by Tortola Concrete Limited and CCT Global Communications.
We have more than 30,000 products to improve your home. We have low prices that are guaranteed. We have helpful people to assist you. You can order Corian or granite countertops, windows and doors, and floors. For the best products at the lowest prices, visit CTL, the one-stop building supply store that will save you time and money. The best, and always have been.
Are you a U.S. citizen or a resident alien living in the BVI? Do you meet the requirements to file a U.S. income tax return with the Internal Revenue Service, along with any applicable foreign bank, financial accounts, and statements of specified foreign financial assets? If you answered yes to the previous questions, you need M.A. Clark, CPA, LLC, to assist you in complying with filing your requirements, as well as small business account services. Call us today for a free consultation. 284-494-0401, or contact us on the web. We look forward to working with you.
The BVI boasts some of the most beautiful beaches found anywhere in the world. It's our clear blue waters and pearly white sands that make it an ideal location for snorkeling, scuba diving, swimming, and exploring. Many locals enjoy spending time with their family and friends, and our visitors marvel at our shores. Yet, too often, more and more beachgoers are becoming careless. They're leaving their garbage on our sands and shores. Dumping trash and neglecting our environment eventually pollutes our lands and seas. The British Virgin Islands is known for its beautiful beaches. If we continue to litter our shores and waters, we'll only destruct our environment and tourism product.
Our beaches are our pride and joy. If we don't pick up behind ourselves, trash and litter will ruin our oceans and sea. Help us keep it clean.
Do you dive for litter? Do you even care? We didn't think so. Dare to care. Your BVI needs you.
Choosing a college education is one of the most important decisions that you will ever make. A college degree or certification opens doors to greater opportunities that will improve the quality of life for you and your family. The greater the investment made in education, the greater the returns. I am Charlita Millington, Regulator of Investments and Securities Business, and a proud graduate of the H. Lavity Stout Community College. A leader in higher education which aids in the improvement of life, a vibrant economy, and nation building. Any educational institution is best judged by its graduates, and the H. Lavity Stout Community College is committed to the development of the human resources of these Virgin Islands and the region. Now, because of HLSCC, I am making a difference.
Remember, at HLSCC, your tomorrow begins today.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm here with Troy Christopher, and we have a discussion basically wrapping up African Descendant History Month. You know, we've had a great 3 shows over the last 3 weeks, and we are talking about the culture, our actual culture, our behavior, our traditions, our values, and how important they still are to us, and how the minimizing or the disuse of those traditions and those cultural values are having a negative impact on our society and our way of life today. The number's going to come up on the screen. You can call us if you want to participate, or you can send us a text if you want to ask a question or make a comment. We'd be happy to hear from you. Of course, we were talking about all the things that we did that is still valuable. Mm-hmm. And you talk about the oven, the brick oven, and the special flavor that it gives, whatever you're baking it.
Yes.
You know, you can't duplicate that taste. No, I don't care how much stove, electric, gas, what kind of stove you buy, you know, you can't get that taste.
Listen, let me just run through this quickly, right?
Yeah.
Because I know we don't have a lot of time. Mm-hmm. But it seems like there has been a discounting mm-hmm. of some of our cultural traditions. It's almost like that was in the old days, mm-hmm. and we are now in a modern era. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like for some time we have run away from these practices so hard. We run away from them like they were cuss words. Right?
Well, we've been made to feel like something wrong with them. They were inferior.
Well, you could say that we were made to feel. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll accept that. Yeah. But I think that we have a responsibility as a thinking people to unshackle ourselves from that mental slavery, as Bob Marley would say, and look at the reality of what you have and what you will get, and make a direct comparison. In the United States, they had the same level of out back west outdoor toilet pit toilet that we had.
Yes.
That they had the same pit toilets.
They cook at 3 stones. Just like we did.
In Japan, they did the same thing. Out toilet and out houses, and in
all evolving cultures
went through the same thing. But some cultures have been able to be so proud of their outdoor toilet, or their barbecue, or their Texas grill, or their grill pit, and they have a font on the computer that's Texas style. There's an engraving on wood that when you recognize it, they brand it, they use it in movies, they create a whole movie industry around their culture. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
They use it for not only to maintain their cultural heritage, they use it in Hollywood, they use it to make money, they use it
economic growth and development.
Economic growth, it's everywhere. Where it seems like for some reason we have not embraced those items that we have come through from our older generation. I don't know if it is because sometimes the older generation made us as young people, the young ones, to feel that again they don't want us to work.
It was too difficult,
as hard as what they had to work, or I don't know what it was. Right? It may have been caught up in the whole slavery type of thing. It was so close to that, it seemed like slave work. I don't know, but I'm saying that if you are looking for something that a tourist will never forget, if you take a tree rock fire on a beach and have a grill or a barbecue or something under the moonlight with the flavor that comes from that food, from your local food and your local meat and vegetables, with fungi music, they'll never forget that. I know that they will never forget that. Foxy's have shown us that they won't forget it. Boomer Shack have shown us that they won't forget it. But we're not very creative when it comes to taking our culture and integrating it into the experience that people come to the territory to see. They're looking for it.
Yeah, but don't we need to integrate that into our way of life, though? I mean, we can't show off something that we don't believe in ourselves.
Well, and that's a great point that you use, and it was the beginning of the point that I was making at the Charlie's restaurant, where they have the pizza oven. That all of these things could be embedded in all of our daily life still, because the flavor, the thing that comes from this way of cooking is still some of the best that you can ever taste. So it's like there's no way you can take a gas stove and replicate some of these traditional dishes that we have and bring the traditional flavor to them. So
we were talking earlier about how our forefathers were able to identify needs and the community and solve the problem and fill those needs. We create industries and create economic activity around those things. I grew up in a village where it was nothing but entrepreneurs. When people come from where they come from now, when they talk about Virgin Islanders don't like this kind of job and they think this job is beneath them and they think, I think there's a lack of understanding of our cultural heritage, that we come from a tradition of people doing for themselves. Create a young man in the village don't be unemployed.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
He creates some work. He look in the community and he see a service is needed. He see a need. Or he go down by Mr. Manley, he say, Mr. Manley, I want to learn how to start a boat and build boat. Show me. He ain't looking for no pay. He just wanted to learn something so he could produce something.
But one of the things that we're seeing is that desire to learn is fading. The desire, that natural desire that let me go where they're building boats to learn and stand up and watch, or stand up and learn and stand up and be there. They ain't have to pay me. I realize it's like I'm going to college.
Yes.
I think all of those opportunities still are present in this current atmosphere with the young people who are sitting on the side. activities are happening all around them. And opportunities are abound throughout the whole community.
And we can't recognize it.
A lot of us, the young people maybe can't recognize it, some of us, and we haven't been able to, as a community, hold those young people and guide them into those places. And I agree that some of the issues that some of the troubled individuals that we talk about might have is social issues. They've had difficult times in their home, bad parenting problems, maybe abuse. There's a lot of complicated issues. I recognize that. But I still think that if we really think hard enough and observe that we should be able to come up with at least several different package of things that we could build within the community, that we can find for young people to do, that could be profitable, and that we could, you know, move them from just sitting on the side.
Back then, we had the fancy word apprenticeship. Now you're here in a term apprenticeship program. It's the same thing. It's the same thing what we're talking about when you used to go and stand up by Mr. Wally Smith and watch him lip block, or Mr. Beresford and watch him lip block, or Mr. Claremont and watch him build boat or something. And you would go and you'll hand him a tool, or you'll hold the wood for him, and he'll tell you, well, saw this for me, and look, and he'll draw a line, and the next thing you know, you sign wood, nailing wood, and next thing you know, you're building boat. You mean how it happened yourself. All you know is you like this thing, and every day you go down there, and he just getting you work to do, and the next thing you know, you're doing it, right? That situation still exists, as you just say, but we need to have, whether it's the individual businessman, for example, the individual automobile shop, or the individual contractor, or the individual plumber, or the individual electrician going to the bar and say, listen, my son, come, let me teach you a trade.
Well, if you look at two things.
Or the government will have to put some, you know, it's always the government have to put a mechanism in place where we have to pay the contractor, get a contractor a stipend or subsidy to train one of the buyers on the block, or one of the local buyers in the community to learn the trade, instead of he just going and taking that responsibility like how we used to do, like our ancestors did in the past.
If we don't find the harmony in it, that you're going to always have to end up paying like that, right? But I mean, when I look at, you know, Kedrick Pickering, all over Kedrick Pickering have been, you know, coming up with these different apprenticeship programs up in East End for, you know, he's been talking a lot about some of the guys in Long Loken who sit on the side and ways that he could help. And there are some people in the community who have been embracing that, taking them up and helping them in the construction field and that kind of stuff. I also want to say to that Honorable Walwyn, with this program they had with unemployment, that you encourage a lot of businesses to hire a lot of these young people and teach them something and try to integrate. I think those are great efforts, but with a little more energy behind it, because sometimes I would like to see new initiatives, not necessarily just businesses that already exist, but as we have identified before, there's so many different areas within the BVI community that could be built out, so many different opportunities for new growth and more business, that we could decide that, you know, this is a new project that we're going to be taking on. We're going to be building out a specific new program and collect a number of these young people, and let's start to work on this new initiative. I think that we're going to have to dig deep and look at some of the things that we've done in the past, because we use this word like the modern, we live in modern times. Does that mean we're living in enlightened times, or it means that we're living in unenlightened times? Are we more enlightened now, or we were more enlightened then?
And that's an excellent question. And it seems from the consequences of our behavior now that we were more enlightened then.
Boy, it's a question that, you know, I like to ask.
We need to start studying. We need to answer that question. Were we better off then, or are we better off now?
Well,
I think, and perhaps in better off, maybe not the correct phrase. Maybe enlightened is a more correct phrase. But when you put it alongside the consequence, when you put the consequences of our behavior now and the consequences of our behavior then, I think the answer jumps out at
so you. If we make this comparison again about following a culture, when I went to school, one of the things that we learned about nutrition was, you know, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. We went through the vegetable list. You know, you have lettuce, you have carrots, you have peas, and the fruit list that they you know presented for us, orange, and you know, at that time for me, I was always wondering, well, what about the pomegranate? What about the sugar apple? What about the guinea? Soursop. What kind of nutritional values these have? But those were never questions that could be answered from the textbook that we were using or that we were being taught from. And so what is stunning to me now is to see the re-emergence of these foods.
But that we've been eating all the time.
We've been eating all the time. Or that we used to eat all the time.
Yes.
Now they're telling you, that they're telling you now the new miracle food, pomegranate. You would not believe how much antioxidants pomegranate has in it. You wouldn't believe this. The new thing, aloe. The aloe vera. Oh, this is just this. The new. And so we are sitting down looking at a culture that we had that we gave up for apples and oranges, and now seeing all of these new foods that we used to eat and use, but
the people that gave us those things to eat are now eat the things that we used to eat,
and it's not
it's
funny.
Amazing.
Isn't that funny?
It's amazing. We fall on it during 8 o'clock, but I think if you're looking to see and to answer the questions, can these things work now? Can we get some of these this culture and this behavior inculcated in ourselves and our children today? How is it possible, and how would we do that?
I think that it is not only possible. I think that we will see a great blossoming of our tourism product from it, or economic product from it, and our, you know, enriching from bringing back some of our heritage, because
more social harmony.
More social, because we are seeing that sand, sea, and water is not enough in this environment. A lot of the other Caribbean countries have already gone to a much more rich cultural experience within their product. So you come to the destination and the people are embedded. They feel, wow, what an experience that they had. And we have to be able to, we have so much to pull from if we want to create these experiences ourselves. And we have so much to pull from, because these experiences, I think, will make us healthier. These experiences will make our tourism product better. I think that it will make our economical situation better. So to me,
the whole society will improve.
The whole society would improve. I think that fundamentally, again, looking at all of these things that we identified, where you can get fresh meat, where you can get fresh chicken, fresh vegetables, you know, they have become so limited now at a time when globally organic is the biggest thing.
Yes.
That you can't keep fresh local chicken in the supermarket or fresh meat in the supermarket. Food prices are high, and if there was a time that you could get into this industry and do well, it's now. While we are discovering that the meat has so much antibiotics in it, so much steroid, the meat that we import have all of these different issues.
Yes.
So
and of course you had the latest story with the horse meat. we want to go there. But don't you think then that we have to really grab hold of our education system to make this, what we're talking about, a reality?
Before we get to the education system, which I really support, the thought process, have we really sit down and look at all the different things that we've given up and looked at how they're not sustainable, and that the things that we've discarded, these are now the
things that we actually
need.
The
things that are so golden, the things that are so rare, the things that are so beneficial. We were talking on the break about a butcher and how rare a butcher is now, and how when I was growing up, Sunday, Saturday, several days of the week, You could get fresh meat from a butcher. All through the community, all kind of different places.
Somebody will kill an animal.
Somebody providing fresh meat. And it's interesting that we have allowed all of that to go in the way of, you know, this meat that we are now realizing is steroid meat, and we can't tell what it is. Hormones, we're seeing cancer from it, we're seeing all these different implications from it. My brother, I don't know what else to say.
Well, we under 10 o'clock, and as usual. But I think that we have to make a move, and education is really going to be a part of that process, and research and development to get back those aspects of our culture that brought the value and the stability and the harmony to our community, and minimize the social ill development that we see occurring now. Those are things we're going to have.
Tendencies. One last thing I want to get in before I go. I would like to ask the community, what do you believe we could build as a community with all the energy that we use in the gym? The trend of being in the gym and exercising and running and lifting weights and all of that is a craze. But it seems to me to be wasted in the gym. If we could find an activity, something to build that could get that same exercise of everybody who's gymming and exercising and all of this stuff, if we could build something, you could imagine what we would build?
We could build a lot of stuff.
That's the kind of thinking that this thing that does come to me. What we could build if we could harness that.
Instead of lifting weights, we lift up some plywood. We get in the same muscle tone, because that's what used to happen. We could lift up some concrete block. We get in the same muscle tone, but we creating something important and relevant for our community.
I have a note here said the farm gym.
Fam gym.
I don't know.
We got to go. Next, tomorrow night, we have a special edition of Spotlight. The Ministry of Health and Social Development has just engaged a company out of the UK with a gentleman by the name of Patrick Ladbury is going to come to talk to us about a national social marketing plan. I think he's the director of the National Social Marketing Center in the UK, and he's come to talk to us about a national social marketing plan that is going to conceptualize a long-term social marketing and behavior change to help us to prevent ourselves from getting non-communicable diseases. Now I contend that same social marketing plan could be applied to all things in our society. So I'm looking forward to talking to this gentleman to hear what his plans are for this development, and I'm elated and excited that the Ministry of Health, the government, has seen it fit to engage in a strategic social marketing plan in order to attack some of our social ills, and particularly our non-communicable chronic diseases. So tune into Spotlight tomorrow night here on JTV at 8 o'clock, and we'll have Mr. Patrick Ladbury, Director of National Social Marketing Center in the UK, to talk to us about this new development. It's going to be quite an interesting development. Of course, thank you for watching Spotlight. We've had a tremendous African Descendant History month of information, local cultural information. Thank Teacher Jenny for bringing us all those values and traditions. Thank Dr. Angel Smith for bringing us the value of those values and traditions. Of course, Dr. Pat Turnbull for talking to us about liberated Africans and the influence that they had on our society as free Africans here in the Virgin Islands. And of course, Troy, it's always good to talk to you with all those interesting concepts and ideas that float around in your head on a regular basis, analyzing situations so that we could, start getting on a good track. And don't forget to watch Spotlight on Sunday, 2:30, and of course you could get Spotlight on demand on jtvlive.net. So you could always find all the programs on JTV Live jtvspotlight@yahoo.net. Thank you for your words of encouragement, your suggestions. You can continue to email me at jtvspotlight@yahoo.com. I'm Ed Juenka, reminding you that when the spotlight is on, you see the facts. Peace and blessings.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.